everyone for joining us. My name is Priscilla. I am the emotional wellness coach here at HRC Fertility, and it's a pleasure to be here today. We have an amazing interview with Jillian from 1043 MYfm, and she's going to be sharing about her egg retrieval journey and her story to help provide you guys with as much information as she can, and maybe it'll help answer some of your questions. Please know that you guys can enter questions in the chat box or in the Q&As, and I will try my best to get to those at the end of our interview. So thanks so much for joining. Jillian, thanks so much for being here with us. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. I've been excited, really looking forward to this.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So Jillian, for those of us maybe who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself, your age, what you do for a living.
Okay. I am 37 years old. My name is Jillian Escoto, but everybody calls me Jill. And I'm on Valentine in the Morning on 1043 MYfm. Born and raised here in Southern California. Went to CSUN for school and majored in communications, and have been with iHeartRadio since 2003. And currently single. And that's what led me to HRC.
Yeah, awesome. I'm glad our paths crossed. But yeah, we're super excited to have you here today. So thanks so much. So let's get into it. Let's talk about your egg freezing journey. I have a list of questions and we'll kind of just go through them.
Perfect.
The first one is, when did you first realize that you kind of wanted to embark on an egg freezing journey?
I always had that life plan set up, since I was little. I knew oh, okay, I'm gonna be married by this age, I'm gonna have kids by this age, and you plan it all out in your head. And as we all know, that never happens.
Yeah.
Rarely it does. It sometimes can, but your plan never works out the way you intended it. So, I was in my 30s, in my early 30s, and in a relationship. And I thought okay, this is for us. I want to have children. I want to be a mom. And that relationship didn't work out. So then I was single again, and now in my mid 30s. And I had always heard about egg freezing and in vitro and all of that. And I have friends who have gone through it, but in my mind, I don't know why. I just thought oh, when I'm 40, I'll think about freezing my eggs. I don't know why. I don't know where that age came from.
Yeah.
But last summer, I was at my gynecologist appointment, and I just happened to ask her. I just said, hey, when should I get serious about freezing my eggs? And she's like, we should have been talking about this years ago. She said, you need to do it now. And that just blew my mind. I had no idea. I thought, I know I'm too young, but that is definitely not the case. And Valentine, who is the main host of our show, he and his wife came to you guys 13, 14 years ago. And so I knew HRC, and my doctor gave me a list of different places to try out or to learn more about. But I knew, I was like, oh, I have to start with HRC. So it really started last summer when I really got serious about it, because my doctor was like, well, you need to do this now. It's time. And I'm 37, so.
Oh, I definitely hear you, and it resonates with, I think, a lot of our patients and a lot of people who are trying to figure out if egg freezing is for them. You genuinely don't go to a gynecologist and they share with you hey, you're going to be 35. You should probably egg freeze. It really doesn't come up unless you ask questions about it. Right. So I feel sometimes we're missing something here. Why aren't we being educated or encouraged or motivated to embark on this earlier versus waiting till after 35 or 40, where we're starting to okay, we know that the biological clock is starting to tick, and we're very curious about it, right? So I wish that our medical system would do a better job at encouraging fertility preservation.
And I think too, when, especially for me anyways, being in a relationship, serious relationships, that kind of just goes out of your mind. You're thinking, oh, this is going to happen with this person. We'll start a family. I don't even need to think about that.
Yeah.
Because you think you're going to be with this person forever or, for a long period of time. And so I think that too, that adds to it of like, well, I don't need to do that. I'm good where I'm at right now. I'm in that stage of my life. I won't need that, but it's definitely something you need to be thinking about.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I do wish that, like, at 35, like, gynecologists were looking to see like how fertile you are and doing some of those like routine lab works that we do here at HRC to see where you're at, what's your
Mhm.
baseline, how fertile are you, so that people can know ahead of time, like, hey, I know you're probably not ready to have a family, but these are your results of an AMH level, right? Or here's this, this is what I'm seeing in an ultrasound, like, and just encouraging that a bit more. I wish that was the case, but I hear you about like when you're in a relationship, you think it's going to work out and you're
Mhm.
going to build a family together, and then something happens, and that's not the case.
Right, right. And I've never, at the doctor's office, never had any of those tests done
Mhm.
about fertility or anything like that. And it wasn't until HRC where, we learn all of these terms and learn about your different levels and things. I had no idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I hear you, and I wish they did more, but that's a whole other conversation about but did you have any like worries or reservations about like an egg freezing journey?
Because I had friends who had done it, and I was, especially my Valentine's wife, like I went through, not that I went through it with them, but I was there. I would be at the house when it was time for her shot. And, I knew she was going to this appointment. And so I think having friends and family members who have gone through this helped a lot. But I think the one thing that I was concerned about was getting the information, getting the results back of what my body was going to be capable of doing. Because I never really thought about infertility or, what my body would be able to do. And so I was ready. And I think because I had some time to think about it since last summer, when I eventually came for my consultation, I think that just the unknown of what exactly I'm going to be putting my body through and what exactly the process is. And having my family who are there, we're all so close, and my sister has little girls, and they know that I want to be a mom someday, so they were super encouraging from the start. And so that really helped too. Like I wasn't intimidated, I wasn't nervous. I was like, okay, this is something I can do with their support as well.
That's great. That's great. I mean, I think having a really good support system is important, because we don't know how our bodies are going to respond to the medication, the
Right.
injections. And is there going to be like any mood changes? And there's feelings involved and things like that. And when you have that support, I can imagine that that's easier.
It
But also
helped.
just having friends that have gone through it and they can kind of share their journey, and especially if you've seen them go through it, I can see how that's like, oh, okay, I have a picture, right?
Mhm.
And it might have
Right.
helped your decision.
Yes, exactly.
Nice. Okay. Let's see. When was your first consultation and when was it like? What was it like?
So it was, gosh, when was this? This was maybe a little over a month ago, 2 months ago was my first consultation, and I went to the Encino location, and I just remember walking in and feeling like I was at a spa. Like,
Yeah.
it's just so peaceful in here. It was just so bright and just so beautiful, and I immediately just felt relaxed, and I felt like almost, being welcomed without even talking to anybody just yet. Just walking into the lobby, I was like, "Oh, this is a good vibe in here."
Yeah.
And my first consultation with Dr. T, I didn't know what I was going to expect. I didn't even know in my mind what I was thinking that would happen at this appointment,
Mhm.
but I felt so I felt like I was his only patient. Like, I felt like it wasn't rushed. There wasn't anything like, he just had like the facts and he just, here you go, these are the statistics, and that was that. Like, he actually took the time to sit me down and we just kind of walked through my, medical history and what I'm looking for and, where I'm at in my life. And I just remember loving him immediately. I felt just so encouraged and this positive feeling from him. And I know that what he does has to be incredibly difficult, and what all the doctors and what all you guys, dealing with infertility, where patients with infertility go through. But he had like this PowerPoint presentation that he
Mhm.
like, turned his computer and he was showing me like these slides and things. And it was broken down so well to where I was completely able to understand exactly what happens to my body with every cycle. And being a woman, you would think like, yeah, this is what happens every month and I know
Yeah.
what that is and that's that. No, he like was able to break it down and I was like, okay, like this is good. Like, okay, now I know what my body's doing. And we went for an exam right away. And I wasn't expecting that. I thought like, okay, we'll get like some paperwork and I'll go home and read about it. No, he explained everything to me right then and there. And he's like, do you want to get started? I was like, yeah, let's go. And so I had an exam and my like what he saw wasn't typical with what he should be seeing with a woman my age. It was on the lower end and he was very direct about that, but in a way where it wasn't discouraging.
Okay.
It was like, okay, this is what you have. Typically, a woman your age should have this many, but you have this. He goes, but that's okay. All it takes is one egg. That's all we need. And so it was reassuring and just felt like just so encouraging and very positive. And I left there with hope. And that was the biggest thing for me is there's hope that, this can happen.
Yeah, and I really appreciate your feedback. I mean, I think some people get nervous around the consultations and they're like, well, what happens in it? And what do you expect? And nerves come in.
Mhm.
But it's nice to hear that, the environment wasn't scary. It wasn't like something that was like, okay, no, I'm not vibing. Let me just leave. It's welcoming. And you had a really great consultation. And I think most patients get like an actual exam, like an ultrasound, a vaginal ultrasound on their first consultation, which I think is amazing because you get so much information on your first visit
Yeah.
versus like you having to go home and processing it, but then kind of wondering what's going to happen. And so
Mhm.
I'm glad you got all that information and that he was still able to kind of build hope, even if, like you said, like you were on the lower numbers
Mhm.
of what we would want to see for somebody your age.
Yeah, and I had my sister with me. I brought my sister Jenna, and we there was one point we were still in Dr. T's office, and we like looked at each other, and she had tears in her eyes, and I had tears in my eyes because it was real now. It was we've taken the step. We've been talking about it all this time. I want to freeze my eggs. I want to freeze my eggs, but here we are in the office, and we're gonna make it happen. We're gonna try and make it happen. And so it was just great to have her there too. And then it made me feel like I have my family here. This is taking one step to now building my family, my future family. So it was just a great experience that first consultation. The entire thing was, but especially the first consultation was just incredibly hopeful.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad. And Dr. T, he's amazing.
I
He's
love that man. I love him so much.
And his like just his tone, his mood is very chill. I think he's very relatable. So yeah, I'm happy you had that at HRC. Yeah, all right. So let's move on. So you got the consultation and then did you start your like medicated cycle or did you get your timeline right away?
I got my timeline, and so the next thing was, I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but the timeline was I was to call them when I started my period.
Okay.
And so I was due to start, I think, the following weekend. And so I eventually did, and I called Jenny, one of the nurses there, and she was like, "Okay, so now let's make an appointment." And within a couple of days, I was there to meet with the doctor again and have another exam. And I didn't know that I would have like you stick to this schedule. I figured there would be something that I had to line up, but you guys are so good at handing me a calendar and just showing, okay, you're going to be coming this day, and then depending on how this works out, like you lay it out for your patients so nicely and so organized. I was like, this is amazing. So I went back, for that initial appointment again and did another exam. And with that, there was even more hope. It was more encouraging of like, okay, we're seeing some more, now that this is happening. It's like, okay, this is good. This is good. And like with each appointment and with each exam, he would give me more and more hope and get more and more positive news. And so that was encouraging too. When starting off, it's like, okay, we're seeing this many right now, still good. There could be more, but this is good. To then like having this build with my body and being able to see it, and seeing the ultrasound and him pointing out the follicles and all of that. It was so, I just keep saying encouraging and hopeful, because that's really what it was. With each appointment, I just felt more and more reassured of we're gonna get something here. This is good.
That's
And every
exciting.
time I went to an appointment, everybody is just so nice. Every single person, whether you're getting your blood drawn, checking in at the front desk, just somebody walking by in the hallway, like everybody is just so friendly and nice. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience.
That's great. That's great. I'm glad that you were able to have a really good experience. I mean, I think it does take a type of person to work at HRC. Like, you definitely do want to be empathetic and genuine, because and infertility is challenging. Whether you're going to go for egg freezing or you're going to go, for other fertility treatments, it's definitely an emotional roller coaster. So, I'm glad you had that experience. I'm also glad you mentioned about the timeline, because usually after your initial consultation, we like to kind of lay it out for you and be like, this is what it looks like. You're coming in this day for ultrasounds, these ones for lab work. We're going to be looking at your follicles, how many are growing and maturing with the medication. And then, we like to do lots of little visits just to make sure that your body is responding the way we want it to be, so that you can be successful at your egg retrieval. So yeah, that is what we do. And I think it also helps people's anxieties to be like, okay,
Yes.
I know my plan. I know I have to do this and this. I have to go see them here, and this is my appointments. And because I feel like for a lot of people, they kind of want to know ahead of time, like,
Mhm.
what does it look like? When do I go? When do I get my lab work? And so I think kind of helps with a little bit of that anxiety piece.
It does, definitely, and it's nice to be able to have that, you get your baseline, and then you're able to check in with your body and see the results, of what is happening, with everything going on, and I was excited every time to see like, "Okay, is there gonna be another one? Is it gonna find another follicle?" It was
Yeah.
very, it was an exciting time for me.
That's great. That's great. All right. So talk to us. So once you got your timeline, I'm sure like right after you started your injectables and all the other medication, how was the medication for you?
So I have multiple sclerosis, and I'm for 10 years, since I was diagnosed back in 2008, and for 10 years I would give myself injections with a medication. And so I was used to
Mm,
needles and injecting myself. But what was different about these was with the MS medication, it kind of does everything for you. There's like this pen, you put the thing in, you stick it to your skin, push a button, and it does everything for you.
mm,
When Jenny was walking me through the process of these injections, I got a little concerned, because you are grabbing your stomach, you're taking the needle, and you're sticking it in. And I was like, ooh, like I've never seen, when I'm doing it to myself with my other medications, I'm not seeing all this part. Like I just push a button and it just does it. And
mm.
so I was a little apprehensive about that at first. And that first day with that first injection, I kept like, my mom was over for the first one. And I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna do it. Okay, okay, here I go. 1, 2, 3, and I wouldn't move. Like I was just standing there, like, okay, okay, well, let me try it again. There's this weird,
It's
thing of
scary. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I was so nervous about that first one, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just okay, for real, mom, for real this time, I'm gonna do it. And I did it, and it did not hurt whatsoever, going in. The medication didn't hurt or didn't burn going in. And I was like, oh, that's it. Oh, okay. That was the first day. And with that certain medication, that first one, I didn't know what I was going to feel.
Mhm.
Different friends had told me different things, and of course, I didn't really know anybody who did egg freezing. I just knew in vitro fertilization, and so I knew there's a lot that goes into that. So they had their advice, and they had how they felt with the medications, but I didn't know, like, was this the same? Is this the same type of medication? Am I going to feel the same way? So really, the only thing that I felt was I got so bloated.
Mhm.
And one of the first visits back to see Dr. T, I was like, I am so bloated. Is this supposed to be happening? And he's like, no, this is good. We want bloat. So
Mhm.
like, okay. So then, the more and more that I was seeing my stomach, it looked so swollen. I was like, this is awesome. Like my body's responding to this. This is good. Like I was actually happy to have all of this bloat.
Yeah.
And I really didn't feel anything besides the bloating, but I didn't experience any mood swings, but I was so emotional. I
Mhm.
was crying. I'm a crier to begin with, but I was crying at the most bizarre things. There was a commercial that came on for Jungle Cruise with The Rock and Emily Blunt,
Yeah.
and I burst into tears because I'm just like, I just love Emily Blunt, and I was crying about Emily Blunt. Okay, this is
She's great.
great, but why am I crying
Why
about her?
are you
So
crying?
little things like that. That was really the only experience I had, was no mood swings. I wasn't getting super angry or, super agitated or anything. It was mostly just emotional, just
Emotional.
a little
Okay.
weepy.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Once it got closer to the actual procedure, the is it the trigger?
The trigger
The
shot,
trigger
yeah.
shot? That one, I didn't feel great. Like I felt kind of nauseous and super tired. I felt just kind of gross,
Mhm.
and but that only lasted for that one day, until it was time to go in for the procedure. But other than that, I had a really okay experience being on the medications.
That's really good to hear. I mean, I think a lot of people don't really know what goes into egg freezing, but yes, it involves injectables and there might involve some other suppositories or just really depending on your protocol. And you kind of have to do them like at a certain time for like 10, 12 days. Again, just really depending on your protocol. But I think most people will say lots of bloating, lots, and maybe even like some sensitivity, around kind of like your pelvis or uterus.
Mhm.
And the reason for that is, well, we're stimulating your ovaries, right? So we're trying to enlarge each of those follicles, right? And so if you have 7, they're going from like these tiny little things to like 5+ centimeters and each. So people are like, Priscilla, I feel like I'm like getting stretch marks, like I just have a big old belly, and I'm like, I know, but it's actually a really good thing, right? That means that your body is responding, your follicles are growing, which is what we want, right? Because we want mature follicles. Like doctors will say, like, oh, we want them to be at this size because then that means that they have a really good chance of making it, right?
Right.
So yeah, the bloating is definitely something that people complain about all the time. But I'm glad that you'd have like no side effects to like the medication, no like injection site pain or anything.
No. No, not at all. And they, as the days go on and as you're giving yourself, more and more injections, it just becomes it's easy. It's such a breeze. By the third, fourth day, I wasn't still counting off, getting nervous to put it in. It just became easier and easier as each day went on.
Yeah. And I can imagine like somebody who has some familiarity with injections, that maybe your anxiety wasn't like, like out of this world compared to like some of our patients are like, Priscilla, no, I can't. And they'll ask somebody to come over and give them the injections, things like that. So maybe that kind of helped your anxiety about the injections too.
It did, and the videos, the links
Mhm.
to the instructional videos, those are amazing because, in the office, they walk you through it step by step on how to do the injection, but then by the time I got home, I was like, "Wait, what? What? What did I
I
just
have no
see?"
idea what happened.
No, so it's so nice to have those videos to watch, and it really just breaks it down step by step for you, and those really helped with the anxiety.
Yeah, and we love those videos too because like when you're in the clinic, you might not be processing all of the information that you
Right.
get. And when we're anxious or nervous, we're distracted. We're only taking in very little information. And so we get home, we're just like, oh no,
Yeah.
what was this happen? So it's definitely a good reference to be like, okay, I have this to look at, and okay,
Right.
I got this.
Yeah.
You mentioned the emotional part of that, and you mentioned that. So I'm guessing your baseline isn't some like you wouldn't normally cry on a commercial. So do you feel like you were more emotional on the medication?
Yes, I definitely was. And I will cry at commercials, and I will cry, even if there's a song, like a good song
Yeah,
that just gets you, I will cry.
definitely.
This was a totally different set of emotions, I feel. Like it was just something that was so foreign to me, where I am emotional and I'm sensitive, but the way I was feeling and the way I felt, like I wanted to cry over everything. It
Mhm.
was, I don't know if I'm explaining it well at all, but it was so different compared to just my normal emotional feeling. And going into it knowing that this could happen, and it could affect your mood, and it can affect your emotions, that helped me be able to like recognize, okay, this is what's going to be happening, and I'm not just crazy to be crying over Emily Blunt. Like it's like I know it's the pill or it's the injection. So
Yeah.
that knowing that ahead of time, that I didn't know how I would react to the injections, that it helped knowing that ahead of time, so that I was like, okay, this is because of this.
Got it. And so do you feel like you were emotional, just like with the most randomest things, or were you like emotional about this journey as well? And like, did you feel like triggered by the journey?
The first day that I did that first shot, once I finished and I set everything down and I like sat down at the table, I started crying almost in a way of like, okay, it's happening again, like how I felt in the office. But this was, okay, it's done. Like this first step, here we go. And I just sat there. Like oh gosh, see, I'm getting emotional now thinking about it. But it was like, see, I told you I cry. I just thought, I'm doing it. Here we go. It's in me now. No turning back.
Mhm.
And it it was a happy time, knowing and feeling very lucky to be able to do something like this, and to know that I'm not in a stage in my life right now where I'm going to have a baby right now. I'm setting myself up for the future, and hopefully I'm going to meet the love of my life and we'll want to start a family together. Or maybe that isn't in the cards for me, and I'm going to want to have a baby on my own later on in life. But this is that first step to doing that, and I felt empowered too. Like, I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this for
Absolutely.
myself. I'm doing this to make a dream of being a mom a reality, hopefully one day. And so it was from that first shot where I was just this realization of, it's real.
Yeah.
And I was proud. I was like, okay, I'm doing it. Let's
Yeah.
go.
That's awesome. I think, patients will definitely complain of like, oh, I'm feeling kind of emotional, or I'm a little snappy with my partner or just with my parent or something. But yeah, I think, sensitivity or just feeling emotional is something that people tend to report like while being on this medication. And some patients are like, oh, Priscilla, like I'm like freaking out. I've been crying. And I'm like, it's totally normal. Don't get scared about it. It's just, it's a part of the medication and the hormones, and so yeah, I hear that a lot from some patients. But I like what you said about like feeling empowered, through this journey, because when we embark on an egg freezing journey, that's exactly what it is. It's like we're not letting time dictate, right? When
Mhm.
we build a family, we get to make those choices with these type of services, right? With these types of, amazing resources that many people are lucky to be able to embark on, and I feel like it definitely helps you to secure your dreams of building your family, whether it's here in a year or whether it's 2, 3, 4 years from now. At least you have, those little eggs just stored
Yes.
there waiting to be fertilized.
Right. It's not something like, oh, hopefully, hopefully one day maybe I'll be able to have kids. It's more of a reassurance of like, I've done all that I can do to
Right.
hopefully make that happen. And I'm doing it for myself now. And then to hopefully, maybe a couple years down the road, I'm able to get pregnant on my own naturally, and great. But then I also have you guys and have this as a backup, and or that I'm going to need to go through this, to to have a baby that way. So it was just it was the right choice for me, and I'm really glad that I did it.
Yeah, yeah, no, and I think a lot of people kind of share that, about like, I'm just not ready yet to have babies. And like, I know it's in my future, but I've always wanted to be a parent. And, whether it's career or whether it's, a relationship or whatever it may be, I think that this really does help you, like you said, have a really nice backup plan because
Mhm.
the reality is after 35 our fertility does decline, like whether we like it or not, right? It isn't to guilt anybody or to put blame. It's just biology. As we get older, right, the quality of our eggs starts to decline and we have fewer eggs, right? So we're born with a set of eggs and then each month, right, we're getting rid of them and getting rid of them. And we're not like our male counterparts where they can make new sperm every 3 months, right? We don't. We are born with a set of eggs. And as we get older, well, the reality sets in, and unfortunately, our fertility does decline after 35. So, yeah, I really think that, this kind of helps you try your best to secure your dreams, right?
And I think too that last year, 2020, the pandemic and
Mhm.
all of that, like I live alone and I was doing the show from home and I saw my family, but that was really it.
Mhm.
And I'm on dating apps, but I didn't want to go out and meet a stranger, for a walk or whatever. Like that wasn't what I wanted to do. And so, as the months were going by and I'm really not leaving the house, and that really too made my mentality change and to want to ask the doctor because I felt that I have this year that's kind of wasted. I'm not out there, I'm not
I'm not dating
dating.
right now.
No. And so I felt like, when the summer came and it was time for my appointment and I went in, I just felt like, I feel like COVID really played a role in making me stop and think, what is really important? What do I really want out
Yeah,
of this life? And
absolutely.
so that played a big role too.
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. I think, a lot of our egg freezing patients will kind of share that, like, dating sucks. 2020 and 2021, it's been hard to get out there. And a lot of people were like, yeah, this is why I really wanted to do that because, like, I'm not in a serious relationship and my dreams of, being a mom is very real for me. And so, yeah, they embark on a journny like this because
Yeah.
we just never know, right? We don't
Right.
know when our person is coming. Right.
Right.
We're
Exactly.
hopeful. So how many days were you on the injectables?
I was on them for 10 days.
Okay. Okay.
And because I, had these lower numbers, Dr. T was like, "Are you good with us going a little more aggressive with it?" And I'm all for that. And so we did. And so they would make some, changes. I mean, when I would go back for an exam and things, and the blood work and everything, they would, make adjustments to the medication or, start this day and take this day off or whatever I needed to do. So, but I think it was a total of 10 days of injections.
Okay, good, good. Because I feel like sometimes depending on like how you're responding to the medication, they can get pushed out longer. Like I've seen patients go 12 days and even longer and they're like, I really wanted it to be 10 days. I'm ready to have my procedure. So okay, so you did 10 days. But
Yeah.
I'm glad that they adjusted the medication just based on like your ultrasounds, what they're seeing in your blood work so that, we can try to help to
Right. Yeah,
ease.
that was nice too, because and they would explain everything to me with each time too. "Okay, this is where you're at, this is where the number is. I see this many follicles." Like everybody was just so good at walking you through it step by step, and I felt so informed for the entire process.
I'm glad. I'm glad. Tell us about, how you felt before your actual procedure.
I was nervous.
I
I
can
was I was very nervous, and, I went to my sister's house the night before, and we all had dinner together, and they could tell that I was nervous, but, we keep everything pretty positive in our family, so they kinda turned that around to more of excitement, and then the morning of, driving there, I was like, "Okay, it's now the nerves are they're really kicking in," and, when everybody would explain the, procedure to me, it's quick, it's fast, but at the same time too, I'm still nervous, like, okay, okay, 15, 20 minutes maybe, but what's going on in there? Like, what, I'm thinking of, I was freaked. I'll be totally honest. I was very freaked. I was very nervous about it. But from the moment that I checked in to, getting into the gown and getting set up in the bed and then I walked myself into the exam or the procedure
Room.
room,
Yeah.
and everybody was just so calm, and the doctor came in, and I saw him, and that was reassuring to see him in there. And I'm telling you, I was so nervous about being sedated. I've been put under before for surgeries and things, but that can
It's
be a little
scary.
scary.
Mhm.
And I all she said to me was like, "Okay, I'm gonna inject you with the medication." The next thing I know, I'm in recovery, don't remember a thing. I
Yeah.
feel like I had the best nap of my life,
Yeah.
and there was, some soreness, like my stomach hurt, a little bit of cramping, but nothing worse than, like, when I'm on my period, nothing worse than that type of cramping. And there was just such a relief,
Mhm.
coming out of it, like, that really was so fast. And my sister was sitting there, and I felt so rested. I'm like, "This is so crazy."
Yeah.
I don't remember a thing. It was, for me, very easy. But, yeah, the nerves, looking back at it, I think I was a lot more nervous than I really needed to be, but I feel like that's normal,
Yeah. Totally
especially,
normal.
going into something that you've never done before like this.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people, unless like, they've had to do 1 or 2 or 3 egg retrievals, which is not, something crazy. People have to do 2 and 3 sometimes. But yeah, I feel like they say like, Priscilla, like I was so nervous going in and then I was asleep and I don't remember anything.
No.
I remember waking up and like already being in the recovery bed and, waiting for the doctor to come and talk to me to see what my body did, right?
And that was so surprising too, when I saw him come into the recovery room and he was like, "All right, we were able to get this many." And I had no idea that he would come in and check in with me
Mhm.
again, afterwards. And he's like, we're going to have to see, how many we will be able to freeze, but I was able to retrieve this money. And I was like, oh my gosh, yay, great. This is so good. So it was
Yeah.
nice to have that too, of being told right then and there, we were able to get this money. Now let's just wait and see to see how many can mature and be able to be frozen.
Yeah, no, I really like that. I mean, sometimes, when you go through a surgery like that, you kind of want to know, like, okay, I know I got to wait for the results or, things
Mhm.
like this, but it's nice to be able to have the doctor be like, okay, hey, we retrieved 10 or we got 6 or we got, 15 or whatever the number is. But that you can go home and be like, okay, like I'm informed, like I know how many I have. And now we just got to wait to see like how many of these little eggs mature so that we can freeze them. Right.
Right. And I'll be honest, he was able to retrieve 5 eggs.
Okay.
And he told me right then and there, he's like, "Okay, we were able to get 5, but we don't know how many we'll be able to freeze." That it could be 2 or 3, it could be 4, it could be all 5. But we will talk about what we should do next once we get that information. And so I was like, "Okay, we got 5." Where before, like that first initial appointment, we were not going to get 5. Like it was very, very low. So to hear that, I was like, okay. And like he said from the beginning, all we need is 1. We need
Yeah.
1. And so I left feeling good. And then I was not expecting this at all, but I got a call the next morning
Hmm.
saying, "Good news.
Yeah.
All 5 matured. We're able to freeze all 5." I was
Yay.
like, "What in the world?" Like,
Yay.
and I'd have to wait a couple days, to hear back, but it was just the next morning. I knew, and then I got on the phone and called everybody, and I was crying again, and I was just
This
so
is
happy
great.
that all 5 were able to be, frozen.
That's wonderful news, Jillian. I'm so happy for you. I definitely think the anticipation of waiting, like, okay, I know that they got to watch my eggs to make sure that they are doing what they have to do, right? Because we have some amazing lab professionals and things like that that they watch them to make sure that they are evolving, they're doing what they have to do, and then yeah, we do give a call as soon as we can verify that they are mature and that they can be frozen.
Yeah,
So
that
that's
was
exciting that yours was just 1 day, or just like boom, there it
yeah.
is.
And like, I didn't answer the number at first because if I don't recognize the number, I'm not going to answer. And she left a voicemail and she was like, just calling in to give you your results. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I immediately called back. I was not expecting it to happen so quickly. So that was
Oh,
really
that's
nice.
exciting. Yeah, that's exciting. So would you consider like doing another round?
I would if the doctor thinks or thought that I should, bless you, I would do another round. He seems to think that I'm good with right now with the 5. And but if he was, if I was to talk to him again and he suggested doing another one, I trust him so much that I would definitely go through it again to get
Awesome.
more if needed.
Excuse me, I feel like I got something in
I
my
hate when
throat.
that happens.
Sorry. Okay. So what were there any kind of key things that you did to kind of cope with this journey?
I think, being on Valentine the morning on our show, we are very open. We talk about our lives and we talk about real things like this. Val was very open about his journey with HRC 13, 14 years ago.
Mhm.
And so I think I'm used to talking about stuff like this, personal things. But when it came to this journey, at first I was like, oh, this is so personal. And I knew like we would talk about it. But I think talking about it with my family and going to my friends, like my one friend has twins thanks to the help of HRC. And so I went to her and I was talking to her about it. And then her reassuring me like it was the best decision I ever made. Like you need to do this. Like you will not regret it. And I think hearing from my doctor and then hearing, all the information I was giving through you guys, I felt like it needed to be talked about because of like what we said in the beginning is a lot of women don't think that they need to at this age and when they're like me and thinking like, okay, later on in life I'll do it.
It'll happen.
Yes, right. And so I think talking about it and having that support system with my friends and family and everybody being excited for the possibility of the happiness that this can bring me later on in life. It just that made all the difference in the world. It was having sisters and friends and my parents and my grandma, like everybody just so happy that made a huge difference. And I wouldn't change a thing. Like I would do it all over again. I'm telling like we're talking about on the show. I'm getting, messages from listeners saying like, thank you for talking about this because a lot of people don't talk about it. And so I'm just glad that we're able to have this platform to spread the word and, get women and couples and, knowing that this is something that can be done. Oh no, I think you're muted. I think unless something's wrong with mine.
No, there we go.
Okay.
I agree with you. I was just saying that, there's not a lot of people talking about fertility or fertility preservation unless, right, like unless a friend of yours mentions it or, you ask a doctor or something about that. But yeah, there's not a
Mhm.
lot of people who know about it. But also, I think it's a very sensitive topic. Like you mentioned, it's very personal. Like you normally don't want to talk about, like your just your body and
Right, right,
what it's doing. You don't want to talk about your ovaries to just people who you're not sure that they're safe people.
mhm,
But it's needed. Like people
right,
need to know that this is common, that these services exist and they empower you to make the life that you want to make for yourself. Like, we don't have to put a timeline on our fertility or on building our families. Like we can preserve. And then, when we're ready, then we embark on that in the future.
right. Yeah, I think the more I talked about it with people, the more I was like, this really needs to be shared. Like this really needs to be talked about. So that having that support system is just so great.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. What would you want to share to like other women or couples who are considering an egg freezing journey?
I would say to definitely have the consultation. at least go in and talk to one of the doctors. And because that, for me anyways, knowing like, okay, I'm thinking about freezing my eggs, this is something I want to do. I had no idea what comes with it, what's done. Like you're left in this space of unknown and uncertainty. And so I would say, just go have the consultation, go and talk to somebody who's going to walk you through it, and you see everything that your body's going to do, and, what steps they have and what exactly the process is. And it was just so, it's like knowledge is power. It was like, oh, okay, this is what it's going to be. Great. Let's do this. Like it was just so comforting, and knowing what's going to be coming your way, and having that knowledge. I think that just makes such a difference, instead of just Googling and, of course you can read articles about it and stuff, but actually talking to somebody about it just makes such a difference.
Yeah, that's great that you mentioned that. I agree with you. I mean, I think just one consultation makes all the difference. And, we do the ultrasound, so you'll definitely get a picture of what your body is currently doing and what the possibilities are, right? Endless possibilities.
Right.
And you learn a lot. You learn about your body, you learn about the medication, what it's going to do, and you get to make a choice, a conscious choice about whether it's something that you want to embark on, so definitely very informative at the consultation. So I agree with you. Go out and get a consultation, guys.
Yes, honestly, it helps so much.
Awesome. So we do have one question before I get to my slides. And this one says, my wife and I are wondering what was the average time that it took to freeze your egg? So like from beginning all the way to the end of getting your results.
I want to say it was within a matter of just a few weeks. I think because my body was I was due to start my cycle close to when I had that first consultation. It was like, okay, let's get started and let's do this. So I want to say from like first consultation to procedure, maybe a month, right. 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It was fast for me.
Yeah, and I want to say that's probably the average, depending, because we like to go with your cycle, right? Because we want to make sure that you are going to ovulate when we want you to, right? So before the procedure. And so we do tend to follow your natural cycle. And then usually you come in for the consultation. And then depending on when your period's coming, then we set a date, right? So it might be like a few days or a week or so from your consultation. And we start medications. Medications can go about 10 days plus, depending on just you and your protocol. And then, we do the procedure, and then we freeze, and then that's it. So I agree. I think it's like 3 to 4 weeks. It's definitely around there.
I was not expecting that at all. Yeah. I thought like after this first consultation, okay, we'll see in a couple months, we'll get you on the books. No, it was surprisingly fast. Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about HRC for a little bit. For those of you guys that are considering an egg freezing cycle, I can kind of just talk to you guys about what we offer. So let's get in here. It says, so what HRC offers is that we do offer 30 years plus of excellence. We've been in the field since 1988, and we have remained dedicated to helping patients through world-class assisted reproductive technology and compassion, expertise, innovation, and personalized care. We do offer personalized care. And what that means is that, our physicians provide continuity of care to every patient from beginning all the way through graduation or, after your procedure. They love to follow you along. They're at the consultations, at the ultrasounds, they're checking in with your coordinator to see how you're responding. So we're very involved. Each of the people in your case is very involved in your care. And we customize a plan for you. So depending on your age and what your body's doing and your lab work and the ultrasounds, we customize a very specific plan for you. We do have 9 sites in Southern California. Jill went to the Encino office, but we have them kind of all over the place. We actually just have built one in San Diego. So we're really excited about that, but we definitely have lots of sites for you to visit. And then we are kind of like a one-stop shop. You don't have to go anywhere else for any of your treatments. We freeze them here, we store them here. We get the medication delivered to you, and we have the surgery center, we have the anesthesiast. We have everything here. You don't have to kind of go anywhere else to do that. So that's really awesome. And then right now we do have an egg freezing package called the Nest package, and it's an all-inclusive egg freezing cycle. So what that does is that we do offer low monthly payment options. So we do have financing programs with us. We do the testing right before we get you started on the medication, right? We test your ovarian reserve, which is the AMH level, and it kind of tells us like how fertile you are, what might we expect from, from your ultrasound, like usually AMH levels, they vary depending on age. But so we get a really good picture as to how fertile you might be. And then we do some other tests just to see, what your protocol is going to look like. We do all the ultrasounds, all the monitoring in-house. We give the medications through some of our pharmacies that we contract with. Obviously, you have your egg retrieval procedure, anesthesia is included, and then you have the egg freezing and the storage, right? So this kind of gives us another little bit of some information. There is a $99 fee for the initial consultation, but that's credited towards your package. And then it says here, we're affordable and flexible. We do offer Cape MD and Future Family as our financing programs. And if you guys are interested in finding more about our financing programs, head over to havingbabies.com and then click on the financing options, and you'll get all the information on there. And the great thing about our financing program is that you can finance any portion of your egg freezing. So if you just want to, kind of finance your medication, that's what you do. If you want to finance the procedure or the storage, right? Anything that you want to do, we help you kind of with those financing needs. Let's see here. So we do the ultrasounds and in-cycle monitoring in-house, the medication, all of that. And then the egg freezing, and the storage. So that's what the package includes. If you have questions, head over to HRC at havingbabies.com for instant access to our packages, our financing options and applications. Or to make your initial consultation, you can just click on make an appointment, and we can get you started on a consultation. You can also call our on-call center at 1-866-HRC-4-IVF. And also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube at HRC Fertility. You can access free content. All of our doctors do an amazing job at providing free education, whether it's egg freezing, whether it's IVF, and all of that goes into that. We have free Q&As and just so much content on our social media. And yeah, I really want to thank you, Jill, for coming on board and just sharing your journey. I think it's such a valuable interview so that we can kind of just share, what we do here at HRC, but also share your egg freezing journey with everybody, and, just to help them feel empowered to take control of their fertility and to help secure their family building desires. So I really appreciate you coming on board.
Thank you for having me. And again, like if, you're going back and forth and, wondering if this is right for you, I would strongly suggest just at least go for a consultation, because you will just get so much information and just feel so much better and more at ease about making the decision. So thank you. And thank you guys. Everybody at HRC has just been so incredibly wonderful. It's been an amazing journey, and just thank you for what you guys are doing of making, our dreams of one day being parents hopefully a reality. So thank you
so much. And, for you guys watching, we do have an emotional wellness program. And so if you find yourself going through the motions and feeling overwhelmed or stressed at all, we do offer lots of emotional wellness services. Right now, we do offer 5 free emotional wellness sessions where I work with you one-on-one and help you through the journey. And so if you guys want to come on board and utilize our free services, please do so. You can always ask for Priscilla, or you can just find more information on our website. So thank you all so much. I appreciate you, Jill, for joining. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.